Welcome to the August 26th JLN Zones production user call. We have Jan, Hazam, Phil, Jamie, Alexander, and myself, Michael, so far. And Jamie has some updates on his work. What you got?
I've figured out how to work around, if not solve, the problem of KQ and jail descriptors and trying to give a descriptor for a new jail.
Ooh.
The problem is you can't. You can give a jail ID and say, now go get a descriptor, and that's what I end up doing. Because KQs exist outside or the process space of the processes using the KQ, because many processes can use the same K-note that I generate, so I can't put a file descriptor in it. But what I have done is I've added KQ support for non-descriptor jails, so that can just drop right in right now. And it follows the same model that process KQ does, where a new KQ note is generated when a subjail is made using actually the same function as process forking. And then what I'm going to do for jail descriptor KQ is, just like regular jail KQ gives you a new KQ with the new jail descriptors will too, but it's not a KQ for the jail descriptor, it's just a KQ for the jail ID. That's not ideal, but it should work, because even though it's a KQ for the jail ID, it goes away when the jail does. So it kind of has the jail descriptor flavor to that. It is actually tied to, in the kernel, to the jail pointer, and will not get fooled by other jails with that same ID.
So even on rollover or re-requesting the same JID, that works. That's nice.
Yeah, if you re-request the same ID, the KQ note will have ended, and you would have to get a new note. So you will see that has happened and be able to handle it. There might still be a chance if I really mess with the KQ code of opening a descriptor, but I'm not sure that I really want to mess with it. I may or may not. The advantage of messing with it is KQ, descriptor-based KQ gets descriptors. Disadvantage is if I don't do it in time for 15, then I can't do it later because it would be changing existing behavior. And if I do it in time for 15, that's a bit of a rush. So that's a maybe. But the good news is there is at least a way for it to work, even if it's kind of hacky. Now, the only thing left to do on jail descriptors is sling together a man page, or maybe just another section of the humongous jail 8 man page, and poke the people who have said that they do not accept this revision and say, can you look at it again now? I've done the things that hopefully you cared about. And if they still don't act, probably just override them and stick it in anyway. I don't like to do that, but I also don't like to not get things done.
Jan, I'm sure you have something to say. What's your take on that, especially with the sort of good versus perfect? Yes, Jan, your hand is up. And
so I have this. For a similar kind of problem, I came up with a little data structure which allows you to aggregate event notifications so that you don't have to allocate memory for the total history, but instead you just get told if an event has happened since the last time you consumed it.
Which is kind of the KQ way.
Yes. And so a state, I put the data structure into the chat so that you can copy and paste it out.
Copying.
So it uses FreeBSD intrusively linked red-black trees, and a state, so the thing which can be notified, is indexed by the host uptime it was last notified. So that's a strongly monotonic counter. And that has to be unique or zero. And then by a name, and the name is only initialized once and then never changed. But it's nice to be able to list them by name in order. And then the writer tracks the list of readers. So I think I have the reader struct down here. Sorry for the background noise. And the reader looks like this. It only knows the position of the last change it has consumed. And you can skip over things you don't want. So you scan, oh, is that a name? And you skip over its notification and you will never miss something. And yeah, if you peek at the state, you just read it and don't advance the position. The nice thing is that the only operations which do a memory allocation and as such can fail is registering a new state or registering a new reader, but notifying, so basically modifying the M time of a state is an in-place operation because it's an intrusively linked tree. So you can remove and reinsert the element without allocating memory. And the reader is just the position into that tree. And that also is not a problem. It's because it's a fixed size, the position. It's just the timestamp of the last change you have not scanned. I guess you think the comparison function that is designed also allowed me to order basically by one and then the other so that it's still basically all the things with the same timestamp if that were allowed would be sorted. But because I'm not allowing the timestamps to be non-unique, if they are non-zero, it doesn't really matter if it's theoretically the zero ones are sorted by name.
Okay. I see this is kind of a clash with the spirit of KQ keynote that says if multiple things happen, don't just start collecting a bunch of stuff in memory.
You're not just gobbling up stuff in memory. You will only just notify them one at a time. Yeah, unless you're kind of collecting them, maybe. You could collect them into the struct K node if you use the two filter reserved 64-bit fields for putting a pointer in. I guess if you do that, Davis Brooks will hate you because of his peculiar architecture. Because cherry pointers don't fit into 64-bit. The solution for that would be we also have an array-based red-black tree. Then you wouldn't store a pointer but an index into an array of nodes. But you would have to eventually grow the array by doubling it or whatever. So you would have to have a large, really consistent array. Not that large in realistic systems. If you just have to track the number of jails times the events you can subscribe to on jails. But with this data structure, I think you could solve the I have to allocate state problem. I will dump you the rest of the code. It's just part of a prototype of mine, but the data structure works and it should solve your problem that you think you have to allocate state per subscriber when something happens. With this data structure, you only have to allocate on creating the jail and on creating the descriptor or the filter node, but not when the events actually happen. What you lose is that you don't get the, it doesn't preserve the order of the event. And if an event happens multiple times, it gets aggregated into a single notification that, so if I want to know jail ID 1000 or whatever, and it gets created, destroyed, and created again, I will get one event. But I think that's a sane semantic to provide.
But with that drawback, that puts us in the same position that we have right now, where we can already give you a jail create note and say, yeah, there are things that might have happened in the intervening time that we don't record. So either way, you end up with a very unlikely but still existent case of incomplete information.
No. What you get is you get each type of event exactly once per subscription. So if I want to subscribe to the creation of this jail or of all jails of my child or whatever, I will get the notifications basically once per whatever jail ID. But I won't get the history like jail ID created, destroyed, created, destroyed, created. I just get it was created, it was destroyed. And the current state is then created. Yeah. So you get kind of a wake up that this event happens, but you would still have to check what the current state is if you really care. Because if you want to preserve the exact sequence of what happens, then you run into the problem that either all your consumers must be hard real-time guaranteeing that they will never block for indeterminate amount of times, or you need an infinite amount of buffer memory, potentially, because you've accidentally created a reliable multicast bus.
Yeah, which has already been decided is not desirable in kernel space.
Yep. And this is kind of an aggregating notification store that this type of event happened. And you don't have to use a string name. You could use the jail ID and the event enum, which would simplify it even further because then you wouldn't have to do any string operations. I will dig up the code implementing the read-write functions later. I hope it helps.
Okay, and then Jamie mentioned sort of perfect versus good versus something. So any thoughts there, Jan, on if how pedantic you should get within the confines of upcoming releases and a feature forever changing the way the thing will behave and preclude other variations on it, if that makes sense. If not, no worries.
By the way, I invited Anthony. He wrote a question about numeric jail IDs on the jail mailing list today.
Oh, yes. We've seen
welcome,
that going
Anthony.
around for the past couple of weeks.
Please explain the challenge and do we have a solution? Go ahead. So what's, Jan or Jamie, what is it that's been seen about jail IDs?
He wants to create jail names with fully numeric jail names that do not correspond to the jail ID. They, in particular, correspond in hexadecimal to the jail ID, and of course, hexadecimal names can often be just all digits, and that ends up with jail names that are different than the IDs. And so the general question is, how do I solve this? And really, the solutions all involve something that is not a purely numeric name.
So the problem is
0x in front of the hexadecimal number, and
Yeah,
then
that's
it's
the
no
easiest
longer
one.
purely decimal number. That's kind of the convention already. So put 0x in front. That's the workaround I recommended.
Okay,
But the
well,
other thing is I would recommend is to not do that.
well, okay, Dave, you
Yes.
had something. What's on your mind?
So the key problem underlying this is that hexadecimal is mostly alphanumeric, but sometimes it's just numeric. And when it's numeric, then the JL system will try and use that as the name. So it's inconsistent. And as Jan said, the solution is to put the 0x in front, or the workaround rather, to do that. But this is sort of one of the reasons why we use UIDs wherever possible, because yeah, you don't get stuck with this sort of stuff.
Unless you leave the dashes in, they are also hexadecimal.
That is true. Yeah. But they're never numeric in the constraints of a, is it 32-bit JLID? 32-bit unsigned JLID? Yeah. So they're always going to be bigger than that. They're never going to get auto-converted into some ID. So the big question is why do you need that? Why do you need a numeric ID that is not the same as a JLID?
And I take it that's always been the case. Just that's how it was, and
Yeah.
I mean for Anthony, why you needed that.
oh, yeah, Anthony, if you're willing to chime in, we'd love to hear your use case because you might blow our minds. You're muted if you happen to be talking. And it sounds like it's come up over the years. What were other use cases? Was it simply, well, we love numbers and just makes sense, or there some client number, customer number,
So
or something?
the times I've
Actually,
seen
I could chime in here. Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
No, you go for it. Go for it.
Oh, okay. So in Sylve, I actually had the exact same problem. Like I associate VM IDs and jail IDs like in a very different way. So users can assign a number and then use it across their cluster. So what would happen is I would let them assign like 100 or 200 as the jail ID. And then if I use that 100 or 200 in the jail conf, what happens is that kind of overlaps with the existing JLS ID, and that made a lot of problems. So what I did in the end was just converting that number into like a proper string. So, I no longer have this issue and I'm very happy with it. So this number corresponds to a deterministic string right now. So if a user gives 200, it'll be some hash in the jail conf. Yeah, and Jan just posted a message saying like we should pick something over 1 million, but that is also fine.
Yeah, so if I have things that need to be unique within a cluster, I use Snowflake IDs, which is a UID specifically designed for uniqueness within clusters. Yeah. So I don't know how you decide it's unique within a cluster. Yeah, so yeah, and that's based off the Twitter algorithm, or it was at the time, either predecessor or
Is Snowflake IDs an industry common topic? That's
yeah,
a
super
term
common.
and such. Okay.
I'm going to find a link when I can. But the key thing, what Twitter wanted was you wanted something that was time sortable, unique in a cluster. And so you have timestamp first, and then you have a machine ID, and then you have a local machine sequence number. Yeah. But for all practical purposes, FreeBSD comes with a UID gen and base tool, which will be unique within a cluster anyway.
Jamie, did the string conversion that Haizam mentioned be a possible workaround? Or were we?
I would think such conversions belong outside of the system level. I do not want to start supporting a bunch of different ways of converting things from this to that. I have the conversion between plain text of digits and JIDs just so command line things with numbers can refer to only one jail and not possibly two. Anything else, though, sounds like a user level problem.
I actually agree here. I actually agree 100%. It makes a lot of sense to keep this out of the system, like the kernel and stuff, because it's easy enough to do on the client side. So I don't see the need to have this in, the base or whatever it's called.
So Anthony chimed in. The idea was
I've done the same thing using a jail name to correspond to part of an IPv6 address, but I put it through I think it's SHA-224 from memory, because it's longer than MD5, which is ridiculously short, and small enough that it fits in a DNS label, whereas SHA-256 won't. And for my use case, with sort of, I guess, about like a 9-node cluster, that's practically unique. It depends on how many jails you want and how many servers you have. That's really going to work. Yeah. I think there's a choice and complexity trade-offs here. So one of them is I'll know directly from a jail what IP address it has. That sounds like a useful property to have. On the other side of things, I think that complexity sort of spreads rapidly through the system. And in the end, the right choice for sort of the optimal point on reducing complexity is to have some system that gives you a lookup, key value store, and there's probably hundreds, if not thousands, of these now that work in a clustered environment, and just store it there. So you have a unique, like a Snowflake ID, some unique ID, and then you ask it what it is, like a Raft consensus thing, or a clustered Redis. I'm not so much a fan of clustered Redis, but it probably does the job just fine.
You can also use the host.host name parameter to just put a fully qualified domain name in, and then have that as your deployment-wide unique identifier for the jail. And you can list that with JLS if you select that column. The sad thing is you can't have dots in your jail name unless it is to signify the hierarchy between parent and child jails, because unlike file systems, the joining character is not slash but dot, which is also the zone separator in domains, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, if you want to have that in, just rewrite dots to underscores and refuse, I don't know, explicit underscores in the configuration if you have some front end, or document that you consider them equivalent, dots and underscores in names in your front end. So if you have a GUI and users want to put in dots, just type it through a string replace. Probably escaping it would be possible, but that then results in uglier names if someone runs JLS.
So if this keeps coming up by resource, I'm saying, hey, would we want to have a little session at EuroBeehiveCon about global uniqueness, perhaps by resource, because hey, having say disk labels and disks being safely unique, plus VMs, plus jails, plus you name it. If it keeps coming up, it's something to address. And can anyone think of existing resources and tips and tricks? Obviously, the data center folks all have their kind of strategy of choice. Or that sounds hard and no one wants to step forward with that. But this topic has definitely come up over the years. And let's see what, for example, in the context of FreeBSD and Illumos, we can identify as the resources like UUID gen that people might not know are there, and how to use them in anger and happiness. So, other thoughts on that uniqueness? Any other use cases? Any other surprises along the road of life and jailing?
Jenny, I
Yeah.
tried to test your review for jail descriptors and the jail KQ by jail ID tracking, but the first already doesn't apply against the latest current, and I don't know which commit to use. Is your Git repository somewhere so that I can cherry pick that?
Not at this moment, no. And I
Or
plan
could you send
on
me a Git tarball or whatever via mail so that I can test that?
I plan on wrapping it up with the differential that I did of non JLID based KQ. So yeah, I don't currently have the right code for you.
Okay, then I can't test your work, sadly.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Okay, and then circling back ever so briefly on what you said would be the blocking of a future possible feature and behavioral change. Is that all to your collective liking, particularly for Jan and Jamie, possibly Dave and everyone else? Like you just, yeah.
That's it. The possible change I was thinking is just something that's only been floating around my head, hasn't had a line of code or anything behind it. So that's just musings right now.
I see.
And if it doesn't turn into anything besides musings, then that'll be what it is.
Okay, well, happy musing in the confines of a upcoming release, but
Yes.
use your best judgment, caffeine is necessary, and Godspeed. Anthony, does that address your issues? Chat is just fine. Oh, and Jan, you're giving examples. So go ahead and have a parallel conversation. Anthony, chime in if that does or does not address your issues. We have a bunch of familiar faces, but Marley and SS are new. Do you have any topics you want addressed? This is your call, not mine. But there's nothing wrong with being a fly on the wall or your insect of choice. Hey, Zam, let's talk about jails in the context of Sylve. How's that going? And one idea was to, hey, support all things OSI. What have you come up with and what are you thinking about?
First of all, I would like to thank Jamie, I mean, not Jamie, like, what's his name? Dave,
That guy, yeah.
for helping
Dave.
with the upcoming port. That's
Yay.
really cool.
I'll put some big public thanks
And
here.
he put this thing in my head that that we needed like clustering, because after a conversation with him, I kind of realized like more than live migration, we need clustering to work properly, especially for jails and data sets that can be sent from one machine to another. And I've been working on that for the last like 3 days, and it is not fun. Distributed computing is not fun.
I disagree. It's awesome. It's so much fun.
Yeah, would you
It's
like to help
not
me with
fun
it then?
until
Because
it's fun.
I'm kind of stuck. I'm kind of stuck. Can I share my screen?
Sure.
Yeah, really. Yeah. And I'm happy to talk about distributed computing anytime.
Oh, that is
Okay.
obvious, and you've come to the right place, everyone. Go ahead. I'll stop my share.
So what is my screen visible? Hello?
Yep. A little bigger
Yeah.
on the top left. It's real. Oh, that's better. It's loaded. Okay, cool. Sure.
Okay. So this is my tiny little home lab, and this is my very small cluster. So what happens is like two nodes can join each other. I use HashiCorp's Raft library in Go to kind of join them together. But the thing is, when there's less than three nodes, it is a hit or a miss. Like I can't like make it work properly. So I kind of wanted to get your guys' suggestions on like if you have any ideas on how you would implement this, because see, it just fails. Like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Like the messaging between nodes and things like that. I really need this to work because I was planning on implementing like a backup thing here. So when you put in a config here, it will propagate below to all the nodes in a single cluster. So any notes on that? Any suggestions on what I could use? I looked into CoroSync, but it seems really heavy. I looked into DQLite for by Canonical that
Yeah,
does just that does distributed SQL. Yeah, yeah.
mm. So
Did you say something?
the really big picture here is first in understanding how it works. The trick is to ignore the complicated theory and just pretend every node has a queue, and after a certain amount of time, that queue has to be emptied if it doesn't respond. And that's basically the sort of the intellectual trick for handling it. But HashiCorp's Raft library should be okay, at least in Go. I don't know if there's any others widely used. And Jan is right that I do it in Erlang, which is kind of cheating a bit because it's much simpler for this. You don't have an RPC layer. It's built into the language, but that doesn't help you at all. So what is the thing you need to... Yeah, and that's the other choice you have is to go etcd. etcd is the other Go library that has this sort of stuff built in, but I don't know whether etcd has been designed to have a it's designed to be used as an API in a cluster, not necessarily as a library in another Go system.
You have a link for that?
Yeah,
The other
No, I
option
looked
is
into etcd, but sorry.
the other option would be to pick something like Consul, which is the HashiCorp one, as a service and just manage it as a service you're spawning. It's already supposed to run in the foreground, so it's easy to spin up. And you would kind of own this instance of Consul. You would install it from the ports, but you would run it with your own configuration directory, which your application would own. And then you would have your battle-tested Raft implementation as a service, not as a library, and bind it to a Unix socket so that you can talk to it. The API is fairly simple. And it already supports subscribing to stuff. The downside is you kind of, for any redundancy, you need 3 nodes.
No, the thing is, I'm very worried about the user experience of how it like everybody starts with a single node, right? So I needed to work without 3 nodes. I needed to be able to work in one node configurations and
not a problem.
Things like that.
Yeah.
Consul can run in a single node configuration and supports all the user-facing API calls to register states, get notified about subscribe changes, and so on. It just
so
doesn't
like
have
what if
high availability.
now I think we'll go to this. Like imagine I have one node, I added another node, now I have 2 nodes, and how do we manage like if I know that consensus won't work without 3 nodes, but like can we manually pick like this is the leader now or something like that with Consul? I'm not very
I think you can fail over to another follower, but you will have effectively no redundancy. So 2 nodes is in a sense worse than 1 node for any consensus-based service or library or whatever. So you have to get over this 2-node hump. What you could do is you could make it very simple to have kind of an very lightweight instance which only does the consensus, so that you can spin it up in a jail somewhere and it is only there so that you can form a consensus. But it wouldn't be a full-sized node.
If you have some algorithm that needs to choose a winner out of two nodes, what happens when the node, let's say, for example, you use uptime. So you have your cluster, you record
Don't.
uptime, and then you lose connectivity between those two nodes. And in fact, what has actually happened is that one of the nodes is dead, and it happens to be the one with the most uptime. But you don't know this because the other node can't reach it. And so you're making assumptions about a node which is A, no longer reachable, and B, the state doesn't match. So you just can't do this. You've got to have a prime number. And as Jan said, you can have like a proxy node that's sole job is to vote, sort of like an independent candidate, I guess. And that should be pretty lightweight. But that should be the default scenario for any one of these things is 3 or 5 nodes is a good number. And more than that, if you have like 7 nodes, then consensus tends to get slower, not faster. 3 or 5. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I looked into HCD a little bit, but it seemed more complicated than HashiCorp Raft for some reason for me, because it feels like a fully built solution.
Yeah. You can use Raft
Yeah.
as a library, and etcd doesn't have a library version of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'll send you some stuff later. I'm pretty sure I know of at least 2 other Go Raft-based libraries. And the big thing with Raft is the paper requires persistent, reliable storage. That's kind of its key piece. So you've got to have a process for adding and evicting nodes that have failed permanently to sort of shrink and grow your cluster. And that's probably the only other big thing. But generally, the way I think of it is it's a queue in bounded time. And if you get to the end of that bounded time and you don't have a response from a node, it's out. And if that node is the leader, then you have to have an election. And until you have an election, you can't perform any transactions in the cluster. And that's like Raft consensus in a very, very short thing. It's a queue of transactions. When you reach a timeout, if it was the leader, you have to have an election. If it wasn't a leader, you have to evict that node. And during the election process, you can't progress the state of the cluster. You have to wait for the election.
Yeah, all of this makes a lot of sense, but doing it in a UX like friendly way is like really difficult, because I've been looking into this a lot right now. Like I think the last 3 days I've been working on this, but I gotten pretty far, but I'm not really happy with how it is, because it's not reliable at the moment. Like even with 3 nodes, like the UX just doesn't work properly, like how I want it to. Like it's not point and click. The user still has to be there's a lot of involvement from the user. So
yeah, it's
and
definitely
yeah, I think I agree with Jan's comment in the chat. You still have a lot of stuff to get the magic auto repair. Yeah, magic auto repair is the issue.
So right now, can you add nodes and remove nodes from your cluster through the UI? That's already a big step forward.
We could, but let me just see. Like okay, so this is HPBSD and this is Prodesk. So let's kick this node. And what happens is I have this SQLite that is behind what do you say, the Raft consensus. So when I kick something, it just gets stuck now because there is no consensus anymore.
Right.
Since there's only one node, right? So maybe if I had 3 nodes, it'll be better. I don't have 3 machines. I should maybe spin up a jail or something like that. See, now it didn't have nothing happens.
Yeah, with a nice
Sorry?
UI. If only there was an easy way to spin up a jail, something with a really nice UI.
Yeah. Yeah, I should do that maybe. The thing is, see, now we have this cluster here. This is cool, right? And now let me just reset the DB so we start from scratch.
So each node has a SQLite DB with its local config, or does it?
Yes, it is.
Global config.
It is. It has a global config and 1 second. Let me just start this up.
Hey, should I put a standard section in UUID Gen manual linking to that RFC 9562?
Why not? It is the standard which defines type 1 to 4 UUIDs, right?
Well, so that's what I'm seeing on the internet, but I'm looking at this manual and it says that it's a DCE version 1 UUID, and I'm looking at the RFC, and the RFC says that it was started out and eventually, you know what I mean, it was standardized in DCE and then it's derived from that specification. So I don't think that they're different, but you know, UUID Gen is from FreeBSD 5 from before we had an RFC for this.
Can we create a cluster now? Hello.
Yes, of course. And
We hear you,
Yeah.
but we're looking at your screen. We don't know the result yet.
Okay, so I'm just gonna walk everybody through, I guess, because the UI is not that great yet. So we create a cluster by just adding this button here and then giving your IP. This is the IP of the node. And then we make it. So now it is a single node cluster now. Then we can see the cluster's information. We copy that and then we join from the other. This is the other node now. And then we put in 155 because this is the, we have to give our own IP here. We put in 9 and then fill this base64 encoded string from the other side. Then we join and now we are in. Now we are in a cluster. So until this, it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
So now sharing happens, all that stuff is good. And if I go here, this is a distributed notes application that I just made for testing. No, I didn't test it after the cluster stuff, I guess, because it doesn't work now. I'm not sure why it doesn't work. But yeah, this adding and removing stuff is pretty good. But the thing is, at any point, if it loses consensus, it is a very big mess to come back like from it.
This is awesome,
especially in,
honestly.
Sorry.
what's that, Dave?
Yeah.
Repeat that, Dave. Your fiber to the home puked. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're cutting out.
I might.
Hey, Zam, continue with the demo
now-
and feel free to
Yeah,
show.
now it decided to
Dale's in
work.
every
Now
regard.
the nodes application decided to work. If I do this, you see that in this node it makes a note, and it just gets replicated over here, over SQLite, over Raft. So when it works really well. When it doesn't, it really breaks stuff. And the code is really bad. Like, I'm not proud of it. So now we have two-way
Azam,
replication. Yeah.
instead of this kind of two-way replication, what about just having the nodes know each other so that you can quickly hop from one node's UI to the other, and then you can hit kind of publish, and you would publish a resource to all known nodes so that it's not really a single instance cluster, but just a distributed system. Or you could, and you can sometimes, but it makes the rest of the code harder, get away by assigning each entity a single writer which owns the entity for its lifetime. And then you don't, if every entity has a single writer, if that writer goes down, you cannot modify that entity, but you can have replicated history of it so that you can recreate that manually. So if you want to then kind of, a server died, I need a new server, I get its state back from the asynchronous replicas, at least to the
No,
point
I
it was
think
confirmed.
that is actually done by the library in question, exactly what you're talking about. Let me just take the code.
No,
Like,
it does a
we
lot stronger thing. It serializes everything into a single consistent stream.
Okay.
Right.
Let me just take the here in Raft, what I did is like so Raft makes a log, right? So once a node gets like that information, that whole log, it applies them one by one. Is that what you meant? So now I
Well,
have
with
actions
Raft,
like this.
no,
I
what I
have
mean, it
commands
would
like
be
this.
different. You would have one log per writer, and those would just be best effort replicated.
Ah, okay. Understood. Understood. Okay.
It's
Okay.
strictly
Yeah, yeah. Makes
weaker
sense.
than what Raft is supposed to provide.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of sidesteps the leader election and so on by not having a leader, but it also means you don't get the consistency of having a leader, that you have a global log, you would have one log per node.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So the way I would probably try and tackle this is firstly for Raft, what we have is a replicated state machine. So when we say a log, what we're actually talking about is the leader receives requests to make changes to the state, and then it
Yep.
sends those requests to each of the nodes. And when it gets a quorum back from the nodes, it then commits it, and then the actions from each side then you end up having, so in Jan's words, to have like a writer or a local actor, it should see a stream of changes that the leader has agreed to commit and that it has successfully done. So a good example is I've got my 3-node cluster and the leader says there shall be one more node. And node 1 goes, okay, I can create that, tries. Node 2 will not need to do anything, and node 3 will not need to do anything. They just need to confirm they've seen the log, and only node 1 will actually have to make that update. But the other 2 nodes in the cluster only one other node needs to confirm it to the leader so it can confirm back to the client. So you can think of each node as having a queue of messages that it needs to do, which is, in fact, that's exactly the supply thing here. But only one of those nodes needs to do it. So the way I would sort of model this is that I would have a bit like a key value store that's unique to each node. And on each node, you can then guarantee that its own local queue of stuff is both node local and unique. So we've got a bit of background
Yeah,
noise.
Alexander, I'm going to mute you. I recognize
there we go.
that
Yeah.
laugh. Go ahead.
So you can imagine now each node in the cluster then has a local queue of jobs which it's trying to do, which hopefully will be very quick. So start a jail or start a VM. And the API to the leader then looks like make me a jail. The leader has to have some algorithm to decide which node it's going to do, which can be random to start off with. And then it sends a message to all the nodes saying, I've asked node 1 to start a jail. And node 1 will go, yep, got it. And the other 2 nodes just need to go, okay, I got the message. I don't actually have anything to do because it's not mine. So on all 3 nodes, you will now have the following transaction, sort of to walk through this slowly. You will have a message to say node 1 should create a jail. So node 1 will create jail and say, I've done it. Confirm that to the leader. Node 2 will say, I heard that node 1 is going to create a jail. I will record that in my log. And then finally, node 3 will do the same thing. The leader will receive three messages. One of them will say, I'm node 1, I made a jail. And the other one will be, I'm node 2, I confirmed that a jail was added to the cluster. And node 3, we don't need it because it's a quorum. May or may not reply, but it doesn't matter because we got 2 votes. Then the leader confirms and says, yes, that's successful, replies back to the client to say, yep, your jail got created. Now we have the situation where node 1, the leader, dies. Node 3, hypothetically, wins the election, picks it up, and it will consult the cluster. See, we have 3 nodes. One of them is missing, and we have 1 jail. And if it's on the system that died, it's going to have to restart that on a different node. If it's on the system that stayed up, it can continue recording that fact. But that's kind of the thing you have to assign a queue of work for each node, and the cluster maintains the global state view using the consensus. So in your case, that still means each node has like a SQLite DB or something like that of jails and Beehive VMs and stuff. But the raft part of it will maintain a queue view of the cluster that says all 3 nodes agreed we made a jail, all 3 nodes agreed we made a Beehive VM. And that's kind of how to do it. You've got to have a local queue of events. So flipping it over, a node gets a request to make a jail and it goes, I'm just too busy, too many resources, whatever. It's going to say no. And the other nodes will not be able to confirm that. They will not be able to come back and say node 1 made a jail. They'll just be able to go, node 1 didn't make it. And that's kind of the other bit you have to have behind the scene. Most of the key value stuff, you're actually waiting for all the nodes to confirm they got it right and they apply it locally. And in your case, it's a little different because each node isn't going to be creating a jail. Each node is going to be confirming that one of the other nodes got a jail. And for that sort of thing, you usually have like a gossip protocol in the background, which just says, hey, I did this. Hey, I did that. What's a good gossip protocol? Swarm is a good one. Yeah. Anyway, that's probably enough for today. It's generally hard what you're trying to do, and I wouldn't expect it to just fall out of the woodwork in 3 days. That your notes thing works at all, I think, is pretty impressive. Yeah, but hopefully that helps make it a bit more sense. You have to have a queue of operations to apply on each node, and you're going to have to distribute the results of that transaction back. So another way you can do this is that the leader directly asks one node to create a jail or a VM. And when that's successful, then communicates that to the cluster that this has been done. But that might take seconds or minutes even. And that becomes very problematic if an API client is waiting for that result, because you have to wait for the thing to be created and for all nodes to do it. Or if the duration of the transaction is longer than the leader's election period. That's also bad. Yeah. So in that case, probably it's easier to store the fact that a jail or VM was created and have as a second event in the cluster the current state of that, whether it succeeded or not. And that would allow you to return the result faster, and it makes it simpler. So that pattern would look a little different. You would go, hey, cluster, I need a VM created, and your leader picks a random node, sends a message saying, cluster, please commit starting a jail on node 1. And they would all come back and say, yep, got it, node 1, node 1, node 1. Then you can reply to the client, say, try to start it. Then you have to have another round, which is, hey, did we succeed in making that? What's this node 1? What's the state of your VM or your jail? And if it's successful, then record it as another transaction in the cluster to say this VM was successfully created. You have to pick which is worse. Is it less work to manage the state directly in the cluster, so you wait for the transaction to complete before confirming it with all nodes? Or is it worse to have 2 operations, one to start it and one to check later if it's up? And what does this look like from an API client on the outside?
I think the second one would make more sense UX wise, because then you have like an entire history of what actually happened. So like, does that make sense? Like, otherwise, like if something fails, you don't know, something passes, you don't know, it just says okay. So I think the second one would make sense, but implementing this is a whole other story. Like I get the theory now, I understand it, like, but it is more difficult than I thought it would be.
But it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool that you've got this far already. I think it's really impressive. So don't lose heart.
I had some experience with some level of distributed computing before, but the thing is, I'm still not sure like what kind of configs I'm supposed to pass through, because my idea was to have like, for instance, if I have JSON like this, like backup, and then it says backup one, and it says like, okay, S3, and then S3's endpoint is like, yeah, exactly like this. So it would look like, this thing. And then
Yeah,
when in the cluster this is made, so every node, I mean, every child node like this will get to know that there is this backup endpoint here. And this
yeah,
backup endpoint has like ZFS or whatever it is. And then they could send their snapshots there, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And if you really notice, like this doesn't change much.
yeah,
But and this I think should be very easy to do. Like it just notes in a different way, and I could pull these from anywhere in the cluster. That's fine. The problem happens when the case when you, like you said, right? Like if I create a jail, like this is the create jail action, and the next one would be like a fail or pass, like fail or pass. Like this would be like, how do we like step this in the UI, because you can't make the user wait so long for this to happen over the cluster, right?
yeah,
So, and another thing is like if the HTTP request fails in between, like imagine they did this and they did not get the response for this. Like
yeah.
what is the state in the UI now?
That's called the Byzantine. Oh, yeah. So this is called the
Yeah, yeah,
Byzantine
Byzantine
generals
fault tolerance.
problem,
Yeah, yeah,
and there's just
yeah, yeah,
no. The short answer is there is Fisher's impossibility result is there is no answer in bounded time, and that's the key thing in bounded time, and that's where all of the
yeah.
raft consensus stuff ends up with this leader election period. That is the bounded time. If you don't get a response in X, you have no way of knowing is it malicious, is it slow, or is it dead. They're all the same thing, and you've got to evict them from the cluster and assume that the resources are toast and recreate them elsewhere. Yeah,
Yeah, makes sense.
yeah.
So yeah,
And that's
so
why I kind of
you
think of
guys
it like
confirmed what I feared. There is no easy way to this.
yeah. The good news is after Fisher's paper, we know there's no easy way to do it. And I have watched
Uh-huh.
people on the internet argue for years on end that there must be an easy way to do it, and that they can beat the maths. That was Redis actually, Redis. And the answer is you cannot beat the maths. You can cheat, but you can't beat it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So from your perspective here, you kind of have two very, very broad options. One of them is to
Mm-hmm.
say, well, Sylve will start the thing, and if it doesn't work, that's a you problem.
Mm-hmm.
To reschedule it and relocate it. And the other one is no, Sylve cares very deeply about your data and will try continuously to recreate it. And my 2 cents is the first pattern is the right one to do it, where if the thing doesn't start, you just hand that mess back to the operator and go, well, dude, that's your problem, to figure out why and fix it. We're assuming that in most cases, the starting of a correctly configured VM or a correctly configured jail should be very reliable.
Or do you mean starting a jail or like starting creation of a jail?
I'm not thinking of those two things as different. So
Okay, so like I think starting a jail, as you said, like it would be very the possibilities of failure is low. But like creating a jail can fail for like n number of reasons. It could be the user didn't give a proper ZFS data set. It could be that they
right,
didn't give
yeah,
the right
yes,
resource stuff. Yeah.
yeah. So there's a like a pre-flight check of um, have you is the metadata you've given actually valid?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
we do a lot of that. But
yeah.
the thing is,
I guess
like
that's
on
what
the
you're
server
saying. Is
end,
it?
it could still fail. Like I've had some users, mess around with it, and it will. You can't expect everything to. It's Murphy's law,
Yeah,
is what I think I would say. So yeah, this I'm not really worried about, but the creation part, like how dealing with like multiple stuff is a little bit hard. But I think I'll get around to it. I'm probably like, if you look at the, it's really funny. If you look at the cluster branch here, like since I have two machines and I'm pushing every single line of code that I change, like it's
yeah,
it's it's not fun. And this branch is like 100 commits long now.
Wow.
So I'll probably
Yeah.
burn this and then start over because I got a lot of ideas now. And then maybe next week I'll have something to mess around with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and having a lightweight node just for voting is also a good idea because then it's very easy to have 3 or 5 nodes. That too is pretty good.
Dave, is that Kush's paper you
So, yeah.
mentioned? I did my best on a search.
I'm
And
pretty sure it's not.
I'm not sure
No,
if we'll, probably not. I'm
no.
doubt if we will solve clustering today, but Hazam, can you show us your other jail features, and do you have any OCI support, or what mechanism did you end up using, or is that all subject to change based on today's conversation?
No, that I think is pretty rock solid. Like all my jails are now working fine. Like I deleted everything because I was messing around with the cluster stuff,
Yeah.
but we could create jails.
And how did you build that
Um,
infrastructure? What supervises jails?
Oh, just jail conf.
Okay,
Just good old jail conf. Yeah.
okay.
Let me just see if I have a data set available here. Yeah, I have Asterisk, which is free. Okay, we'll use that. Let's name it Asterisk. Let's give it this. I don't have any base here. I have a base here. Nope. We're gonna have to download base, and that's gonna take a while. I hope it doesn't take a while.
Have you seen the new OCI payloads that Dave has spoken at length about?
Yeah, I did. I'm not really experienced with that. I should take a look at. I should. The thing is, I usually make it work for like for myself and try it out.
Sure.
Before like last month, I didn't even use jails much, but once I did, understood it, and then I was like, okay, I can make it better with the UX of these things because people don't kind of understand like why jails are important or why it can be much easier to spin up than a VM. You kind of have to show it to them. That's when they kind of get it.
Wow.
So,
Okay. You're moving quickly. I'm impressed.
so yeah, thank you. So I think I like where jails is now, but OCI, I've heard a lot of, like talk about it, getting it done properly, and Podman and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll
But
definitely take a look at it. And the jail metadata stuff, I read into it. It's really cool,
Sure.
which I think Dave is also working on.
well, I think Igor did all the hard lifting. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And I think there's an issue on that on GitHub now. Oh, okay, you made it. Okay, that's cool. So I kind of have to spin up a FreeBSD 15 machine to try that out. I'm really excited for this because then I have the tagging behavior that I wanted without, messing with my SQL configurations. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
that.
exactly the thing we wanted to solve, actually, was exactly
Okay.
that. I've got jails,
Okay, yeah.
lots of them, and they come and go, and I don't want to track the state in a database. I just want to query it and go, hey, give me all the things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what, this makes a lot of sense. And I'm really sad that it's going to be in 15 because I kind of like stick with table or latest because it's easier for me to wrap my head around. One more, does anybody know why like the FTP, I mean the website here is really slow? Like for me, is it slow for anybody else?
Yes.
Like this
Yes,
domain?
it is.
We had a
Yeah.
great chat about that a few months ago, like deep into the whole challenge of CDNs, not unlike clustering. But Dave, are there specifics to share, or?
Not really. So it's slow because you're going to Sweden, and
Um,
all of Europe and half of the rest of the world is going to Sweden. You can
Oh
see
yeah,
here
it
it
has
tells
been.
it. Yeah. And I don't know
Okay.
what's closer for
Okay.
you, but it might be the US. And how do we do that?
Like if anybody knows like who maintains this, like some magnets would be awesome because I implemented magnets here. You could just paste magnets here and it would work.
I don't know what a magnet is. Sorry.
BitTorrent URLs.
It's just a BitTorrent URL. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Somebody does do these, but not officially.
Mhm.
John McGurney,
Who does it?
perhaps?
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, Magnet is the way to do it. Like Magnet is like they don't have to download a file; it's a super long URL instead of the old way where you use a file.
Yeah, Joan G does it. I will drop a link both here and in your Discord.
Oh yeah, this is what I was looking for. This is really cool.
Uh,
Yep, so my demo is done. Like this is the jail. Like it just works. Do you guys have any questions? Like I could answer them. I think that'll be easier.
Just
Hello.
wanting to get people interested in what you're doing because it has sprouted jail functionality.
Oh yeah, Jails was actually much easier to implement than VM stuff, I would say, because there were very little edge cases that I had to solve. The resource limiting works beautifully. Networking is very well done, and the configs are very easy. Like somebody asked, right, like how configs are managed. So this is my config here, and this is an inherited jail, like the network is inherited, and I do the CPU and RAM resource limiting using
Oh, no
CPU
kidding.
set and
Okay.
RCTL.
Nice. Fancy.
And this does like a live on live reload it works as well. So if I set this to like 2 gigs, it will update it live and on the server as well. Like now you can see that it changed here. And it also does it immediately so that you don't have to restart the jail for it to, I mean, for changes to be seen. This works, and CPU is also really good. Thank you to Jan for helping out with the CPU set stuff.
Oh, did you
So
figure
that's
out your
great. And
performance quirks, mysteries?
oh, for the Beehive stuff,
Yeah.
not yet.
Okay, no worries, no worries.
But I have some banger sheets made, though. I'll share that tomorrow.
Okay, cool, cool.
So yeah,
Do
that's
you
it
have
for
any
Jails, and I'm really
fundamental
happy about it.
questions?
But
We have Jamie, the
sorry, oh
maintainer,
yeah,
on the call. The jail maintainer is on the call right now. Do you have any fundamental questions? Anything?
no, everything works as it's
Okay.
supposed to. I'm really happy with it.
Compliments are fine.
Um,
Compliments are fine. Good work, Jamie.
yeah,
And
it's
thank you, Jan,
great
for
stuff.
helping me.
I'm
Plus
gonna
one, thank
waste
you, Jamie.
some of my life on distributed computing until the weekend, and then I'll probably give up.
The Oracle of Dave is present. So just, Dave, I hope you can set him in the right direction. Okay, well, I trust you'll save other new Sylve features for the Beehive call. Any quick
Will do,
teaser?
will do.
Any quick? Okay, cool. Let's stop the share because I'm seeing myself, and that's
How do I?
the
Oh
last
yeah.
thing I want to
Good.
see. Allow us and ooh, replace current share. Okay, cool. Well, thank you. That was a fantastic update. And to state the obvious, your tool did not support jails like not very long ago, and now it's knocking on the door of clustering. Very cool. And thank you again, Dave, for helping out with that. Thank you, Jamie, for making this possible in many regards. Anthony, did that answer all your questions earlier? And Daniel, do you have anything to discuss, short of me wanting to beg for some Zelta features because I've been using it in anger and happiness for days, weeks actually.
No, nothing jaily for me today.
Cool. Let's see. Broadly, I think okay, Jan and DCH will be at Euro BeehiveCon perhaps, or at least EuroBSDCon. I hope you're not in a tutorial during BeehiveCon, but it might be good to have a quick update on all things jail and perhaps zones within These circles, because BeehiveCon is about anything pretty much non-Linux and container and VM related. So there, I said it. If someone wants to give us an update, that would be appreciated. We lost SS. I hope they enjoyed the call. Alexander, just at the start, Jamie had mentioned that, Jamie, your tool was strong on code, weak on documentation. Do you think you could benefit from help from an enthusiastic documenter like Alexander? Question to Jamie as I weave between topics.
Oh, there's not really much I need to do. It's just probably a section of a man page. So
Got it. Just be loud and public on the reviews. He might have an opinion. They've been great observations to date. So I thank you all for that. 12, 20. So other topics, questions, ideas. Let's see.
I see executable jail conf there. Yeah, that needs to be put in. I'm going to put that in today.
put that
Then we can lay that to rest.
Great. Sounds good. And yep, well, I'll leave it to you on the philosophical questions on features that may be impossible in the future based on current developments and yada, yada, yada. Let's see. Dave, how's your ARM system going?
Oh, cooking with gas.
Cooking with gas. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Catch, I think, the last Beehive call for an overview of his nifty new hardware. Hey, Zam, keep up the great work. This is very exciting because you're exercising things like as simple as libvirt that just didn't have someone exercising them, so they didn't progress because it's like, hey, no supply, no demand. So excellent work. Anthony, Alexander, anything? Anything? Or we'll call it good.
Yeah, I mean, I've just been I've been trying to be more like clockworky about filling up my Git commits so that it looks like, somebody wants to give me a job or something. So I've just been doing lots of little things. I'm really anxious about this. We have this FreeBSD 15 release, and like they're like, okay, will you do the doc? And I'm like, yeah, sure, like I'll do the doc, but it's like what the hell are you guys even doing? Like, I'm like, okay, so can I write this? And it's like, well, no, we think we don't know what we're gonna do with that yet. And it's like, dude, the code slush is like, we're in the code slush. Like, what do you mean? Like, what should I do with this? We have all of this. I'm like, hey, here's our checklist. I need help with these things from anybody who's working on this. And like, so far, the only thing that I've heard on that is like, hey, can you put that on the wiki? Like, no, I'm not going to put that on the wiki. I don't use a desktop. Like, I can't, like, putting it on the wiki is not a fun thing for me. Like, have to use my work computer or fight some second-rate desktop. I'm not going to do that. Like, what I need to know is like, what's our plan? And then I'm going to write what our plan is and tell our users. I've already assembled all of the docs that if we don't change them with the changes that are proposed, it's going to be bad and misleading. So that's at least like a huge step. But that's like as far as I can get by myself, it seems like. So I've just been doing like little stupid stuff that doesn't really matter, like organizing, like alphabetizing options and aligning them, and then, trying to help merge contributor patches, which is really good. I think that does matter, but that's all I've been
It
up
totally
to.
does. Yeah, it's huge. I think with releases, so this is my first time being involved in a release on the inside of the release process, and um, package base is a really complicated feature that touches many different bits. And I think the last month has been pretty tricky. We had a lot of people away on holiday, and at the same time, lots of little important changes going in for 15 that broke various little bits. Some really important things like every release, we have the same problem with OpenSSL that its support lifecycle is different to that of FreeBSD's. So we've got to pick, do we jump on the very latest one, like at the end of the slush period, and hope that we fix most of the bugs in the next sort of 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and then fix all the bugs that fall out of that in ports? Or do we stay on the older version, which we already know works, but then end up with a version of FreeBSD that might be 5 years behind a supported version? Well, not anymore, but 4 years behind. And that's really difficult. So you can imagine that happening from all of these different angles. OpenZFS, JMalloc for memory allocation went in, OpenSSL is another one, and package itself changing for package base. And it generates a lot of churn very, very fast, but it does settle down and it comes together for the release as we get closer and closer to cutting alpha and beta candidates. Collins, what's the word I'm looking for here? Shears cut off more and more things more vigorously. Yeah, so I think we'll get there, but it will not be a smooth landing. There will be some bumpy bits along the way, and I think that's more or less normal in any open source operating system. Yeah. I guess I'm saying you're right. It is messy, but that's how we roll, and we'll get there, especially with your help.
Thanks, Uncle Dave. That sounds great, actually.
On that note, Alexander, would you like the honors?
Wait, we already ended the recording.
Did we? Did I push the wrong button? I think we're recording.
Oh,
Let's
well, like and subscribe.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. Great work. Keep it up. Talk to you soon. Bye. See you at EuroBee HiveCon.